So before we begin, just one final housekeeping matter. Just make sure that all of your lines are on mute because there will be a recording and we do not want to record any background noises. If you have any questions through today's session, feel free to enter those questions into the chat box. And I have with me my colleague Clarice as well. Some of you might know her. Okay, and she will also be around to assist you with any questions you have in the chat box. So now I want to introduce our first speaker for today, Dr. Miria Guadingo, Head of Editorial Outreach at Clarivate. So she is the expert that you should be asking questions about the journal selection process for Web of Science. And this exclusive event is only for UiTM editors. So do take the chance to ask all the questions you want for today. Okay, make sure you clear all your doubts and hope that all your journals will be on the road to success. All right, so without further ado, let me pass the presenters rights over to Dr. Miria Guadingo, and she will start today's session. Okay.
Thank you, Julene. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. Let me start by sharing my screen. Okay, I think you should be seeing my screen right now. Let me just get this out of the way. Are you seeing everything correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so thank you so much, Julene, for the introduction. And again, thank you all for being here and for inviting us to do this little session. As Julene said, I'm Miria Guadingo. I am Head of Editorial Outreach for Web of Science. And today what we're going to do is talk about the Web of Science journal evaluation process and selection criteria. So we're going to review the whole process that the Web of Science editors use to evaluate the journals. We will go through each one of the criteria and each one of the steps that we follow. So the idea is that you can really understand what is our approach to the journal selection. Before that, I just want to make just a few words. Oh, sorry, I'm not getting. Yes, now. A few words about who we are. Web of Science is a publisher-independent global citation database. Dr. Eugene Garfield was our founder. He was also the inventor of the first citation index. And he based a lot of his work on the idea that through citation, an intellectual link is created between research works. And that is exactly what we do in the Web of Science core collection. We index journals of the highest quality, and we capture all of their articles with their metadata and the cited references. So what we're doing is actually capturing all of those intellectual links that Dr. Garfield used to talk about. And because we have been doing that for so many years, we have been able to construct a highly comprehensive and very complete citation network that we continue to build today. So one of the characteristics that really makes us who we are is the thorough curation of our data, as well as the unique selection and evaluation process that we have in place. We have three basic principles in our selection process. They are objectivity, selectivity, and collection dynamics. And we use a set of 28 criteria to evaluate all of the journals for the Web of Science core collection. So this is what we are talking about today. We will focus on these 28 criteria and those principles that we use. Just for a little moment, let's stop at the Web of Science platform just to have a little overview. This is the whole Web of Science. It is a multidisciplinary platform, and it has many different collections in it. We have some what we call the specialty collections. These are dedicated to specific research areas. Some of those are managed by Clarivate, like zoological record, for example, is a well-known one. And there's also other specialty collections that they are hosted. So they are managed by external institutions, but integrated in the Web of Science platform. Like, for example, Medline would be one of those. A similar thing happens with the regional collections. These are all managed by external institutions. They are the ones who come up with the editorial policies, and they take care of the whole process of these hosted collections, but they are integrated in the Web of Science platforms. We have several: the Arabic, the Chinese, Russian, Korean, and then there's Cielo is the one dedicated to Spanish-speaking countries, and also Portugal and Brazil. And then we also have the Derwent Innovation Index. This is dedicated to intellectual property publications and patents, all of that. And then we have the Data Citation Index, which is dedicated to data sets, research data sets. So all of these collections are integrated in the Web of Science platform, as I'd say, and they are all connected by their metadata and their citations. Today, what we are doing is focusing here. This is the Web of Science core collection. And here we index the high quality journals, books, and conference proceedings. So keep in mind, for the rest of the sessions, we will be talking only about the Web of Science core collection. And this is the structure of the core collection. It is like a conglomerate of indices. The different indices can be seen as building blocks of the larger structure that is the Web of Science core collections. We have three flagship indices. There's the Science Citation Index Expanded, the Social Sciences Citation Index, the Arts and Humanities Citation Index. And this is where the most impactful journals in the sciences, the social sciences, and the arts and humanities are covered. Then we also have the ESCI, the Emerging Sources Citation Index. And this covers high quality journals in all disciplines. It is thought to provide visibility to the broader literature. It includes sources that go beyond the high impact journals. And finally, we have the Books Citation Index and the Conference Proceeding Citation Index, which, as you can probably guess, they are dedicated exclusively to books and conference proceedings publications. And again, I insist, every item that is indexed in the Web of Science core collection, every article, every book, every conference proceeding is a node in the citation network. Everything is connected to other items, to other publications via their citations. So it is discoverable through this connection, and it can lead to other publications. Everything that's in the Web of Science core collection plays an equally important role in the creation of the citation network. Okay, so now that we understand the internal structure of the Web of Science core collection, let's focus on the evaluation process and the selection criteria. First of all, you are probably wondering who is in charge of that and how we do it. So we are a team of professional in-house editors. We are exclusively dedicated to the curation of the Web of Science core collection. Any of the editors in the Web of Science team are affiliated to any publishers or any research institution. So we are completely independent, we are unbiased, and we have no potential conflicts of interest in our decisions. A very important thing, each editor of the team is focused on a specific subject category. That means that each one of us evaluates journals in a defined set of categories. This allows us to get a very deep knowledge of that category, of the journals that form that subject category in the Web of Science, and also of the publication landscape in that specific field. Also, we gather all the journal information and all the data that we need to evaluate the journal ourselves. So basically, we go into the websites of the journals. Most journals are online nowadays. So we go into the journals, into their website, and just look for the information. We spend quite some time just browsing through the journals. This allows us to get to know the journals very well. it also ensures that the evaluation is completely independent, it is unbiased, and it's also based in the same transparent information that the journal provides to its audience. As I said, the whole process is carried out by the Web of Science in-house editorial team. We do not rely on algorithms, and we also do not delegate the decisions on the research community. It is all carried out by the professional editors and database curators. And of course, following the principles of objectivity and selectivity, all of the editors use the same set of criteria. We have 24 quality criteria and 4 impact criteria to evaluate all of the journals for the Web of Science core collection. So here you can see...
Miria?
Yeah?
Miria? Hi, sorry, but I needed to point out something to the audience.
Yes.
So I do apologize because I just realized that the flyer that went out to all the participants actually stated a 3 p.m. start. So I think many of the participants mistook the timing. That's why some of them are joining at 3 p.m. instead of the 2:30 on WebEx. So I understand that we have started some of this portion already. So maybe for the time being, for those who have joined us, maybe we'll take some questions around the first part of the presentation that you have shown, if they have any, and then we will start promptly at 3 p.m. so that the joiners later on will not miss too much of your session. Will that be okay? Yeah, and Dr. I do apologize that there was a discrepancy in the timing, and for those who have joined us now, I do apologize that you have to wait for about 10 minutes for your other colleagues to join us. All right, so if you have any questions, do feel free to put those questions in the chat box now, and we can address some of them while we wait for 3 p.m. All right. Okay, so Miria, maybe later on you will be able to start again so that we can have everyone be able to listen from the beginning again.
Okay, yeah. You want me to stop sharing the presentation and then we'll just start all over?
Yeah, I'll just put in the holding slide, and then for the rest of the audience in the call, do put in any questions that you have for us into the chat box, and then we can address it now as well. Okay. In the meantime, maybe what I can do is I'll share a little bit about the Web of Science journal selection web pages that you can go to have a look as well. Miria, would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Jude. I see we have a question about what is ESCI. So whilst Julian is looking for the website where we explain more in detail, I can just reply to this question. The ESCI stands for Emerging Sources Citation Index. Okay, and this is the collection that we have, the index, that is dedicated to the high quality journals. All the journals that meet our 24 quality criteria are included in ESCI. And I already explained a little bit about that, but it is dedicated to journals that meet quality criteria, that journals that show editorial rigor and publishing best practices. It gives visibility to a broader section of the literature and goes beyond the literature in the high impact sections.
Okay, so I'm sharing on the screen now the website for the journal selection process, as well as more details around this. So this you can, I'll put that link into the chat box so that everyone on this call can also put this in their bookmark. So we Yeah, so we have an explanation. You can download some information around our story, as well as the criteria, the process, and more explanation on each of the phases, which Dr. Miria will actually highlight later on during her presentation. It's also
Yes.
elaborated here on the slide.
Yes, in that website, you can always go back to it, and there's quite a lot of details of each one of the steps. I will go through all of them during my presentation, but this is a really good reference document for you to check because it's everything, it's quite clearly explained and detailed. Should I take another question from the chat? I think so.
Is there another chat? Is there let me just have a quick look. So there's another question. I think this one you have actually elaborated from Dr. Geeta. And then there's must a journal use online journal system in order to be indexed in ESCI and Web of Science?
So I guess you're wondering if we take journals that only publish in print form. I assume that's the question. Yes, we do also index journals that are only published in print form. But of course, you probably know, you are aware that most of the journals right now are also published in online versions. Some are only online, some are printed and online. This is actually the ideal thing, having the journal online. For us, it's a lot easier to work with because, we index journals from all over the world. But if you are editing or publishing a journal that is only published in print, you could also submit it for evaluation in the Web of Science, and it can be indexed. And we do index journals that are only published in printed form. For that, you need to send them there. I think there is information in the website. You need to send the printed issues to our offices in Philadelphia.
Miriam, I think
Yes.
the question was around whether they should be using an online submission system. So if they use an online submission system, does that is there a requirement in order to be indexed in ESCI and Web of Science?
We don't have a specific requirement regarding an online submission system. What we look when we evaluate a journal, we look mostly at the published content of the journal. We do not take into account what system, what software, what internal processes the journal is having. So you can use whatever system works for you, as long as it works for your processes. We do not take that into consideration, no. But if I may, I think online submission systems are the most common way of handling manuscripts at the moment.
Yeah, and we have a question from Dr. Yong. So is the evaluation process and criteria of books and conference proceedings in Web of Science similar to those for journals?
The conference proceedings and the criteria for books are a completely different process from the journals. It is managed actually by a different team. We have a team dedicated only to journals, and then we have a team dedicated to conference proceedings and to books. And their process is also, and their criteria are actually different from the ones for the journals, because of course the conference proceedings and books are completely different publication models and completely different publication systems. So they do have a process, an evaluation process, but it is different from the one used in journals.
Yeah, and I think to elaborate further, there is also more information about the book citation indexes that is available also on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this can all be found on the Web of Science section under the clarivate.com website.
Mm-hmm.
So the submission pages for the books as well as the conference proceedings are also here on this page, and I will share this with everyone here in the chat. All right, so we are at 3 p.m., 2 minutes to 3 p.m. So let me just reshare this introduction slide. So for those who have joined us just a few minutes ago, thank you for taking time to join us today. And I do apologize that there was some confusion around the timings on the invitation to all of you. Sincerely apologize, and we do rest assured that we are going to cover Miria's session from the beginning so that you do not miss anything. Okay? And at the same time, the recording will also be provided to you so that you can review any portions that you might have missed earlier on. Okay. If you have any questions for Miria or myself, do indicate those questions into the chat box, and we will be able to address them as we go along. Okay. Okay. And just to add on with regards to the online submission system, that the question that was raised earlier on, that part will be covered as part of the journal improvement session that will be conducted later on after Dr. Miria's session. So now I'm going to hand the mic back over to Dr. Miria, who is our head of editorial engagements, and she will take you through the journal selection process and criteria in more details. So once again, I do apologize, and I hope you enjoyed today's session. Thank you. Back to you, Miria.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah, can you see my screen? Yes?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you all for joining us. Hello to the ones that have joined us in the last couple of minutes, in the last few minutes. So I'm going to introduce myself again. I'm Miria Guadingo. I am head of editorial outreach for Web of Science. And today we're talking about the Web of Science journal evaluation process and selection criteria. We will review all the different criteria that the Web of Science editors use to evaluate journals. So you can really get familiar with our approach to journal selection. So just very quickly, a few words about who we are. Web of Science is a publisher-independent global citation database. It was founded by Eugene Garfield, who was also the inventor of the first citation index. And he based a lot of his work on the idea that an intellectual link is created between research work when they cite each other. And this is what the Web of Science core collection does. We index journals and we connect them via their citations. Because we have been doing that for such a long time, we have constructed a very comprehensive and complete citation network that we continue to build today. We are known by the thorough curation of our data and our unique selection and evaluation process. We have three basic principles, which are objectivity, selectivity, and collection dynamics. And we use a set of 28 criteria to evaluate all of the journals. So this is what we are going to focus on today. I'm going to go very quickly through the Web of Science platform because we've already been that, and what we are focusing today here only on the Web of Science core collection. So you can just go into the website and check the rest of the collections, but just today we focus here. This is the Web of Science core collection, and this is where we index high quality journals, books, and conference proceedings. So the Web of Science core collection is like it's form of smaller indices. They are like building blocks of the larger collections. There's three flagship indices: the Science Citation Index Expanded, the Social Sciences Citation Index, and the Arts and Humanities Citation Index. And here we cover all the most impactful journals in the sciences, the social sciences, and the arts and humanities. Then we have the Emerging Sources Citation Index, which it's the ESCI, and this covers the high-quality journals in all the disciplines. It provides visibility to the broader literature. It includes sources that go beyond the high-impact journals. And then we have the Books Citation Index and the Conference Proceedings Citation Index. So now that we know what is the internal structure of the Web of Science, we're going to focus on the journal evaluation process and the selection criteria. So first of all, who takes care of the whole curation of the Web of Science? We are a team of professional in-house editors, and we are dedicated to the curation of the Web of Science core collection. We are specialized on that. We are not affiliated to any publishers or any research institution, so we are completely independent, and there are no potential conflicts of interest in our decisions. So each editor focuses on specific subject category. That allows us to have a very deep knowledge of the category and of the journals in any specific fields. We also gather all of the journal information and data ourselves during the evaluation process. So when we look for the information that we need to evaluate a journal, we spend quite some time just browsing through the journal website. This allows us to get to know the journals very well. And it also ensures that the evaluation is completely independent, it is unbiased, and it is based on the transparent information that the journal provides to its whole audience. As I said, the whole process is carried out by the Web of Science in-house editorial team. We do not rely on algorithms and do not delegate the decisions on the research community. It is all carried out by the professional editors. And then finally, following the principles of objectivity and selectivity, all of the editors use the same set of criteria, 24 quality and 4 impact criteria, to evaluate all of the journals for the Web of Science core collection. Here, you can see what's the overall context of the core collection. We have the different indices that we were talking about before. And you can also see what the dynamics of the core collection are. So what happens once the editors have evaluated the journal? So journals that meet all of the quality criteria enter the ESCI. Then journals that meet the quality and also the impact criteria enter SCIE, SSCI, or AHCI. Now, keep in mind that the whole collection is dynamic. This is what the arrows here on the right-hand side of the workflow are showing. So journals can move from one index to another depending on their impact. In that way, an ESCI journal that gains impact will move to a flagship, and also the other way around, a journal in a flagship collection that loses impact can move to ESCI. Also very important, any journals that can be removed from the whole, lose quality, that do not meet the 24 quality criteria can be removed from the whole collection. The indexing can be discontinued. Okay, we're going to focus now here on the evaluation process. So we will go through all of the steps and all of the criteria. We'll see what they mean, see what we'll look at when we evaluate the journal, and also why we consider that to be important. This is a complete overview of the whole process that we use, and you can see also all of the criteria. There are 3 levels of evaluation. There's the editorial triage, there's the initial triage, the editorial triage, and the editorial evaluation, which actually splits into 2 parts, the quality and the impact. We have 24 quality criteria, which are these ones here, this section. And we evaluate those criteria first. And these are essential to be fulfilled by any journal that is indexed in the Web of Science core collection. With these criteria, we address editorial rigor and publishing best practices. And then we have 4 additional impact criteria, which are these ones here. And these need to be met by the journals in the flagship collection. These are designed to select the most influential journals in the research area. So when we receive a journal that has been submitted, we start here at the initial triage, and we review all of the different criteria at this stage. Unless all of the criteria are met, we will not move on to the next one. And that applies to all these levels. So journals need to meet all of the criteria in each stage in order to move on to the next one. One thing that I think it's really important to note here is that the whole process, all of this, is carried out by the same editor, like all the way through. So by the end of the process, the editors really get to know the journal very well, and they have performed a very deep analysis of the journal and also its surrounding community. And this makes the whole process very solid. So let's now look at the stages and the criteria in detail. All right, this is the first step. We have received a journal for submission and we are at the initial triage. This step is based on information that the publishers provide when the journal is submitted. And its purpose is to ensure that we have all the information that we need to initiate an evaluation, that we have unambiguously identified the journal, and also that there are a few very minimum requirements that are met. This translates into several specific criteria. First of all, we need to have a registered ISSN that can be checked in the ISSN portal and that matches the title and the publisher of the submitted journal. Also, the title needs to be distinctive, so ideally non-identical to other existing journals. It needs to be consistent with the title in the ISSN register and also with all the content in the journal website and the published material. So all of the different articles in the journal should have the title in them, and the title should be always the same, should be consistent in all of the publications. We also need to be able to clearly identify the publisher of the journal. For that, we also need an address. Just an email or a phone number are not enough. We need a physical location of the offices of the publisher. If the journal is published together with a scholarly society, the information of that society should also be clearly informed on the website, including the contact details. We also need a valid and unique URL, so a journal website. Then all of the content needs to be found in one place. So what we cannot do is go to different websites to collect all of the journal content. It has to be, we need to be able to find it in a single place. Also, the access, we need access to all of the published content. Now, if the journal is open access, that is not a problem because we can just read the journal as any other reader would do. But if it's not open access, we need you to provide either a username and a password that we can use to log in and access the papers, or we can also provide you with our IP range, so you can detect it and allow us access to the publications. But it is essential. We cannot initiate an evaluation if we do not have access to the content. The journal needs to have also a peer review policy in place. This should be very clearly stated on the website. It is vital. All of the journals in the Web of Science core collection need to be peer reviewed. And finally, we need a contact from the journal. just to be able to communicate with whenever we need to, if we need any additional information, or just to communicate the outcome of the evaluations. So for that, we prefer a generic email instead of a personal email. That the personal emails are more likely to become inactive for any reasons. So it's better to have a generic one. So we check all of those. If one of or more of those criteria are not met, we will communicate that to the contact, and as soon as these issues have been solved, the journal can be submitted again for evaluation. Otherwise, if everything is correct and all the criteria are being met, we will move on to the next evaluation stage, which is the editorial triage.
Okay, Miria, maybe
Yes.
at this point we have one question pertaining to this particular stage. So let's say if the ISSN is not found in the ISSN portal, will the journal be rejected with embargo?
No, there is not embargo at the initial triage stage. We would communicate it to the journal contact. We will tell them, look, we have checked the ISSN portal and we cannot find this journal. And once that is solved, we can resume the evaluation. We can go back to it.
Okay, thanks. That's the only question for this section. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. So next step is the editorial triage. The aim of this phase of the evaluation is to determine if the journal meets the minimum requirements that will justify a complete and deep evaluation of the content. That is done at a later stage. Here, what we are focusing on is on the format criteria and basically on how the content of the journal is provided to the readers. Now, for that, we use 9 criteria. First of all is the scholarly content. The journal needs to publish mostly scholarly content. That would be original research results, review articles, case studies, for example. Journals may also have other content as well. They can have editorials, commentaries, news, etc. But the content needs to be mostly academic. The article titles and the abstracts should appear at least in English. Now, keep in mind that Web of Science is directed towards a global audience. We have users all over the world. And the title and the abstract of an article, it is the minimum information that any researcher would need in order to know if a paper responds to their needs, if they are going to find the information that they are looking for in a paper. That does not mean that other languages are excluded. Of course not. We index journals that publish in many different languages. But if your journal publishes in a language that is not English, then the English translation of titles and abstracts needs to be included in the articles. I have a little example here for you. This is a Korean journal. So you can see here they have the title of the article in Korean, and they also have the translation into English. And same happens with the abstracts. First, we have the Korean version and then the English translation. That way, someone like, for example, me, who does not understand any Korean at all, can get a little bit of information about the article and see if it's interesting to continue exploring it somehow. Then the bibliographic information, that means the data about the publication, about that specific article, and the references included in it. That needs to appear in the Roman script. This is this alphabet, the one that we use in English and in other Latin-derived languages. So this is the language that Web of Science understands, let's say. It's the systems that are behind, the back end of the Web of Science understands the Roman script. So we need to have that bibliographic information in that script in order to be able to process it and to capture all of the citations. Also, this is very valuable information for the users, right? Knowing which articles are cited in another article that you are interested in is very valuable information. So we want to make that available for all of them. We have a very quick other example here. This is a Russian journal. So this, for example, would be the header of the article, and they have the information in Cyrillic, but you can also see they have the information of the journal title, the publication year, the volume, the issue, and the page range in the Roman alphabet. And then at the end of the article, in the references, they all appear in the Roman alphabet as well. So this is the kind of presentation that we look for. Then this is the same. The next criteria is the clarity of language. That's quite self-explanatory, I would say. Of course, we cannot index content that is not comprehensible. Everything needs to be readable and easy to comprehend by an educated audience. Then the journal needs to adhere to its own publication schedule. That means that if the journal says it's quarterly, for example, we will expect to see a new issue published every 3 months. What this says is that there is a solid editorial management behind the journal. We will also look at the publication volume. This is the number of items published per year, and this should be in agreement with the research area of the journal. It can vary quite a bit depending on the area. Also, the journal website, it needs to be friendly, it needs to be easy to navigate through. You can look at it that way. Looking for any information that you need on a digital journal should be as easy as opening a printed journal, even easier, I would say. So that's what we're looking for. Then we have the ethical statements and guidelines. This is very important. This needs to be very clear. Here what we are talking about is, for example, guidelines regarding the declaration of possible conflicts of interest, research involving animals or humans, publication consent is also an example. The journal needs to be very clear about that, and it also needs to make sure that these principles are being applied to their publication. And finally, it is very important that both authors and editors of the journals can be correctly identified. So for that, we need the full affiliation, including institution, city, and country of work for all the authors and the editors. By editors, I mean the members of the editorial board. This information for editors is normally provided in a dedicated section of the website. And for the authors, it is specified in each publication. So if at the end of the evaluation, there's one or more of these 9 criteria that are not being met, then the journal will not pass the editorial triage. We will communicate it to the journal content, and again, once everything is solved, the journal can be submitted for evaluation again. On the other hand, if all of the criteria are met, at this point, we would continue with the journal evaluation and move on to the next stage. Do we have any questions at this point that we should address?
None at the moment in the chat group.
None at the moment? Okay, so I'll continue. Let's move on.
There's one that just came in. So
okay.
Please continue to keep your questions coming in. So I'll raise that with Miria as we go along. So Miria, there's one question on average, how long does this process take? So I'm assuming maybe the triage stage, the evaluation of the triage stage, and then together with, as a whole, the whole evaluation process.
The evaluation timeline and the whole process, this really depends on the editorial needs of the Web of Science and on the order of the or when the journals are submitted. It really depends also on the research area. So it is really complicated not to say virtually impossible to estimate a timeline for evaluations, unfortunately.
Okay, and then the next question is the evaluation of the article, so must it be a blind review?
The peer review.
Yes, so I'm assuming this question is around the peer review process and whether we focus only on double-blind reviews.
We do not address the method, the peer review method. We do, and you will see that in the next stage, we do have one criteria that refers to the quality of the peer review. So what we look at is that there is a solid peer review process that results in a quality publication, but we do not consider the type of peer review. So we do not mind if you use double-blind peer review or single-blind peer review or open peer review, which is something that's quite new, but some journals are using that at the moment. We do not consider the method for the peer review. What we look at is at the result of the peer review and at the quality of the articles published.
Okay, so I think that's all the questions for now.
Lovely.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's move on. Next stage is the quality, the editorial evaluation. And we start by assessing the editorial quality. So what we are looking for here mainly is coherence within the journal. We will look at the title, the aims and scope, the editorial board composition, the author's expertise, and the published content need to be consistent, need to match. And then we have we also look at the editorial rigor. For that, we basically look at the citations, the use of citations, and the peer review process. There are 8 criteria that we use for that. So first of all, we look at the editorial board. We will look at their distribution by country, their publications, and the citation network that is around them. We want to see that they are active members of the research community. We actually want just to know that they work in that research area. At this point, this is a qualitative evaluation. It's not quantitative. Then the validity of statements. This means that we go and check if the ethical statements and guidelines that we were talking about before are actually being applied in the journal. So, for example, if the journal requests a conflict of interest statement, we will check if the papers have such a statement included in them. Or if there is research using animals, we will go into the papers that describe that kind of research with animals, and we will look for the ethical committee approval information. That's what we're doing here. Here's the peer review criteria that I was talking about before. What we do is look for an evidence of an adequate peer review. We are not peer reviewers. We do not review papers. What we do is look for symptoms that indicate a poor peer review process. For example, articles that do not fit the scope of the journals, or that are hard to understand, or that have difficult to read figures, that cite papers that do not match the content of the articles, for example. These are all signs that something may not be working as it should during the peer review. So, as I was saying regarding the question before, we do not look at the type of peer review. You can use whatever methodology or whatever whatever type of peer review, single blind, double blind, whatever you would like for peer review, but we look at the outcome of this peer review. We look at the quality of the papers itself. This is something that some journals are doing. It's not mandatory, but they do add information of the timings. So you can see more or less how long it takes to process the papers. Again, it is not mandatory, but it is useful because it gives us an idea of how long the whole process takes. In content relevance, we check the coherence within the journal. So this is what I was talking about before. The title, the aims and scope, and the actual content need to be coherent. Then we have the information of the funding that's associated to the published articles. This is not mandatory as well. We know that not all of the articles can be associated to a specific funding. That happens especially in arts and humanities when a lot of the time there is no funding at all for the research, but it is very relevant in experimental sciences. On one hand, this indicates that there is a funding agency that has evaluated the project and they considered it important and valuable enough to give it funding. So that is an added value of the research that is described. And also the funding information is indexed in the Web of Science. So included that information is enriching for our database. There's a very quick example here. In this journal, they dedicate a specific section at the end of the paper for the funding, but it is very often, the information of the funding is very often found in the acknowledgements as well. That is okay. What is important is that if the information is appropriate to be included and it is available, it is included in the article. Next one, adherence to community standards. What we mean by that is the correct use of established standards in the specific research community. That's in terms of format or best practices, for example. So we're talking about specific notations that are used to provide some kind of information, or experimental details that are generally considered essential. For example, minimum replicates that are considered enough for statistics significance. All of that. A very easy to understand example is the format that is used to name species. So you have to put it in italics and it has two words. The first one starts with a capital letter and the second one doesn't. That kind of formatting and conventions is what we are looking at in this criteria. Next, we have the author distribution. Here we will look on one hand at the geographic distribution of authors, because if a journal claims to be international, we expect to see authors from all over the world, or at least distributed through a variety of countries and areas. On the other hand, we will check if the authors are part of the scholar community of that research area. This is similar to what we did with the editors in the first criteria. We want to make sure, we want to check that they are active members of the community, that they work in that research field. And finally, we look at the citations of the journal, in the journal. We look for a good use of citations and we ensure that citations are relevant to the articles. Okay, so if once we complete this analysis, there is one or more criteria that are not being met, we will communicate that to the journal. But there is an important difference here that you need to consider. In this phase of the evaluation, the journal, if it fails any of the criteria, the journal is subject to 2 years of embargo. This means that the journal cannot be reevaluated in the next 2 years. And why is that? This is because, as you have seen, this analysis goes a lot deeper into the content of the journal and in the editorial management. So we consider that the changes that need to be implemented in order to meet our criteria at this point require a longer time to be applied and to become consistent.
Okay, Miria, we have a question here.
Okay.
So if the journal changed from double-blind peer review to single-blind peer reviews, is there any implication to the journal?
As long as the journal maintains the quality through that change, no, that is not something that we would consider really during the evaluation. We will look at the articles and we will look for an appropriate peer review process. what methodology is used is completely independent. This is the decision of the editorial management. It's not something that we take into consideration.
Okay, then there's another question around funding information. Elaborate a little bit more about what you mean by funders information, name and type.
Let me just go back and see if I can show that example again. Okay, so here, you see, this is like the end of an article from just a journal, random journal. We don't mind what journal it is. Here you can see they have the section funding, okay, here. So basically what they say is who provided the money, the funding, to carry out that research. And well, first of all, there's a lot of funders who require you to include that information in the paper. So it is something that we want to see because of the reasons that I already said, because it gives some added value to the research, but it also provides information that is indexed in the Web of Science and that enriches the database. But also you have to, well, there's a lot of funders who actually require that the information is included. The way in which that information is included, that really depends on the funders. There are funders that have very specific sentences that have to be used. Some others give you more freedom. That is completely up to the authors and to the editors of the journal. We just want to include that in the evaluation of the journal because it is interesting information. But again, it is not mandatory. If you don't include funding information is especially expected to be found in experimental sciences. And we do know that not all of the articles may have a dedicated funding for it. But yeah, this is the kind of information that should be included in the funding section.
Okay, thanks, Miria. And another question around the appropriate citation to literature. Could you elaborate a little bit more about that? Do you mean citations to references within each article, or are you talking about citation to the articles in the journal?
No.
How many citations is considered sufficient?
No, we are looking at the citations, at the outgoing citations. So what the articles in the journal that we are evaluating are citing, okay? What we do is make sure that the citations are adding value and are appropriate for the article that we are evaluating at each point. What we do is we take a sample of articles and look at their citations and make sure that the citations are appropriate and that they are used using the best practices. We do not look at the citation that the journal receives. This is not something that we evaluate at the quality level.
Okay, thank you. And then if the journal declares itself as a national journal and author distribution is within the same nationality, will it affect the author distribution criteria?
If the journal declares itself as a national journal, we will consider completely normal that all of the article, if not all, most of the authors, of that journal are from the same nationality. That makes perfect sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And one final one before we go, is there a percentage to self-citations that is considered okay?
We do not have like a specific threshold for self-citations. We do look at an appropriate use, as I was saying, an appropriate use of citations. So for any journal, it is normal to find citations to the same journal because a lot of the time the authors of the journal are also readers of the journals and they use it as a reference for their investigation, and that's completely fine. what it is not considered a good practice is when there is an exaggeration of the self-citations, when citations are being to the same journal are done without a clear purpose, and they are added in bulk, or they are not related to the content of the article. That is what is not a good practice. But we don't have a threshold or a specific percentage of self-citation that we don't draw a line. We look into the papers and try to see if citations match or not.
Okay. One final one before we go on to the next section. Is there to the editorial members to publish in one issue of the journal?
Seeing the editorial board members of the journal publishing in the journal is normal as well. And same thing as I was saying with the self-citation. It's not like we can draw a line where under that number it's okay and then over that number is not okay. What we are looking at is to find a balance. Of course, if a journal has most of the publications by the editorial board, that shows that the journal is probably not working as well as it should, because it may have problems to get sufficient submissions, for example. So a lot of papers from the editorial board would be a red flag, but it is quite normal and it is common to find some publications from the editorial board members in the journal.
Okay, thanks, Miria.
Okay, perfect. So we were saying if and one or more of these criteria are not met, the journal will not continue being evaluated, and there is an embargo period of 2 years for resubmission. Otherwise, if all of the criteria are met, then the journal fulfills the whole 24 quality criteria, and it will be accepted for indexing in the Web of Science core collection, provided that it passes the tech evaluation, which is a very, very minimal check. We are not done yet because we still need to evaluate the impact of the journal. And that is a very important analysis because it will tell us in which index the journal will be included. So this is the last step. And the goal of the impact evaluation is to select the journals with a higher influence, with a higher impact. For that, the main indicator that we use is the citation activity of the journal and of the people around it, so the editors and the authors. There is another factor that we need to consider, which focuses on the content of the journal and how it makes it unique and how it makes it valuable for the research community. But let's see the criteria all in detail. First, we have the comparative citation analysis. So what we do here is estimating the journal impact factor for several years. You probably know what's the journal impact factor. You know it represents the volume of citations that a journal receives in relation to its scholarly content. So we calculate that estimated journal impact factor. We see how it would position inside the subject category and in comparison with similar journals that are already indexed in our flagship collections. We do not just look at the numbers here. We also check, for example, where the citations are coming from and how this compares to other similar journals. Then, regarding the citation analysis of the authors and of the editors. Here, of course, we do not expect that absolutely every one of them are highly cited scholars. Of course not. But in high impact journals, we do expect to see the participation of scholars who are leading the conversation in the area. The fact that outstanding researchers choose to publish or participate on the editorial board of a certain journal tells us that they consider that journal important and relevant themselves. So we do take that into account. And finally, we have the content significance of the journal. Here we are looking for content that is valuable and that is important for the research community. And that is not always shows up in the form of a high citation activity. It can also appear as particularities in the journal content, for example, that make it specially relevant. This is, for example, a specialization in a narrow or an emerging topic, a focus on a specific region that maybe other more generic sources are not representing very well. That kind of characteristics is what we look at. So at this point, we have completed the whole evaluation of the journal. We have checked the 28 criteria. And what happens now? If all of the criteria, both the quality and the impact, are met, the journal will be indexed in one of the flagship collections, the SCIE, the SSCI, or the AHCI. And that will depend on the subject category of the journal. Otherwise, if one or more of the impact criteria are not being met, then the journal won't be in a flagship collection, but it does qualify to be indexed in Web of Science because it meets all of the quality criteria. So it will go into ESCI. That means that we will be capturing all of its content, the full names of the authors, their affiliations, their citations, etc. And the journal will start to participate in the Web of Science core collection network, those citation network that we were talking about before. But we do recognize that journals change and evolve and grow. And as we said at the beginning of the presentation, the Web of Science core collections are dynamic. This is one of our principles. So a journal that is indexed in the ESCI and gains impact has a chance to move to a flagship collection. And I want to show you how does that work. What we do is prioritize reevaluations for journals that display a high citation performance, regardless of the time that has passed since their last evaluation. This is different from the way we used to approach this process in the past. What we used to do is reevaluate journals every 2 years. But this was really not an effective way of working. Most of what happened is that most of the journals that we reevaluated didn't qualify for flagship, and they ended up staying in the index that they were. So what we are doing now is using citation and publication data to prioritize the reevaluations. So what we do is we monitor the citation performance of all the journals indexed in the ESCI. And we look at that data in the context of the whole Web of Science core collection. When the data indicates that the impact has increased and the criteria may be met, we will reevaluate. There is a very important detail here. The reevaluation process starts at the editorial triage stage. So what we do is, first of all, making sure that the journal continues to meet all of the quality criteria before we evaluate for impact. So we do that. If the journal continues to meet the quality criteria, we also evaluate the impact. And if those are met, the journal is moved to one of the flagship collections. Now, this priority analysis and the reevaluations are performed during the second half of the year. And why we do that? So that way we can use the data from the latest journal citation reports to prioritize and to do the comparative citation analysis. Because for us, it is really important to look at everything in a context, and the JCR data is a really good context to do this reevaluation and this prioritization exercise. So just so you get an idea how we organize our work, first half of the year, we focus on new evaluations on journals that are not covered in any Web of Science core collection indices. And the second half of the year, we focus on re-evaluation. We address any potential decreases in the quality. Any concerns regarding the quality of index journals are addressed at any point during the year. So that would be all for the journal evaluation in the Web of Science core collection. I know there is a lot of information here. You've seen it is a very well-structured process, has a lot of layers, and it really gets into the details of the journal itself. It also takes into consideration the broader picture, the standing of the journal in the surrounding literature. Should we take any questions now? I think it's a good moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a three-part question.
Okay.
So does journal with a niche and specific scope of publication stand a better chance of getting indexed in Web of Science?
I wouldn't say that it stands a better chance just because of that, because every journal needs to fulfill the whole quality, all of the 24 quality criteria in order to access the Web of Science, and all the 4 impact criteria in order to access one of the flagship collections. A niche publication area can be useful to stand out from the crowd. What I'm trying to say is there is a lot of journals. You know, there is so many journals. I think the last estimation of the STM was that there is 45,000 journals, peer-reviewed journals, being published all over the world. So there is a lot of journals. A niche publication area may help you differentiate from that large amount of journals that are available for everyone. So I wouldn't say that a niche publication area will help you to meet the criteria. We would take that into account when we evaluate, for example, the publication volume, because we understand that a niche publication area will have less amount of content. But still, all of the criteria need to be met equally for all of the journals, regardless of the publication scope.
Okay. Then what are the chances for multidisciplinary journals? Is there a minimum number of citations required for multidisciplinary journals?
Okay, for multidisciplinary journals, again, one problem that we can find with multidisciplinary journal is that there is a lot of journals already. So I think that it can be harder for multidisciplinary journals to stand from the crowd. But that is completely the decision of the editorial management of the journal. That's okay. What we do look for in multidisciplinary journals is that they have a focus. What do I mean? We do encounter sometimes journals that are multidisciplinary and that publish everything. And by everything, I mean from high energy physics to poetry. And that is not something that we are looking for right now for the Web of Science. We do accept multidisciplinary journals, but with a focus in basic. It can be a not completely multidisciplinary scope. Like, for example, it could be a biology journal. That would be a multidisciplinary journal that would be considered for the Web of Science. Or also they can have a different approach to the way they present the data or the results. So yeah, for multidisciplinary journals, I think it's a little bit more complicated because of the large amount of journals that there is, but make sure that they have a bit of a focus, that they are not like completely everything goes into the journal, because that is not something that we are, that the Web of Science needs right now.
Okay, and I think to elaborate, later on, I'll actually be showing the audience how they can have a quick look at JCR as well, to see where the multidisciplinary journals are with a focus, so they have an idea of what you're mentioning about. Yeah, so then there's another question. Do you mind to elaborate on the source of citation, meaning articles, reviews, conference proceedings, and books? Are these the source of citations you look into when you're evaluating for impact?
Yeah, when we evaluate for impact, And when we evaluate for everything, basically, we mostly look at the sources that we consider scholarly publications. So that would be research articles, reviews, case studies, if you have them. Some journals do include conference proceedings in them. We would look at those as well. The other kind of publications that some journals have and that are not considered scholarly publications, like opinion articles or commentaries or what else? News. Sometimes some journals have news in them. These are not, this is not content that we consider when we evaluate the journal for quality and impact.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions for now, so you can continue.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, we have seen the whole evaluation of the Web of Science for the Web of Science core collection. We are almost finished, but I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the JCR, the Journal Citation Report. You probably know that it is released once a year, the JCR. It is an array of journal level metrics and statistics that is designed to help understanding a journal role and the influence of the journal upon the global research community. It includes the journal impact factor, but it goes way beyond that. It displays a whole range of metrics as well as descriptive data about the journal's open access and the contributing authors. So how do the JCR and the Web of Science connect? The JCR uses Web of Science data, but it is not just an extraction of the data. The JCR is a separate product and it does have its own curation and data validation process. This is very important for us. It ensures that the data we are using is correct and it is complete. Now, the JCR includes journals that are indexed in the SCIE and the SSCI. Those are the journals that receive the whole set of metrics in the JCR, including the journal impact factor. But the whole Web of Science core collection is needed for the calculation of the JCR metrics. So remember what we were saying earlier about the citation networks. All of the articles in the Web of Science core collection are connected by citations between them. So when the journal impact factor is calculated, we count citations from all of the Web of Science core collection indices to journals in the SCIE and the SSCI. Then, very quickly, this is the calculation of the journal impact factor. The last one that was released was the 2019 journal impact factor. So for each journal, we count all of the citations coming from 2019 publications received by items published in the 2 previous years. And that overall count is divided by the number of citable items published in 2018 and 2017 in that journal. Now, a very important remark about the journal impact factor, and we really can't stress that enough. This is a journal level metric, and therefore it gives information about journals, not about individual articles and not about researchers, of course. It is also not to be used on its own. It should always be put in context. It should be considered as a part of a broader set of metrics and data. And that is all from me. Just a couple of useful resources. This link is the website that Julien was sharing with you just before we started this presentation. You have seen you have all of there's a detailed explanation of each one of the criteria there in that link, so you can go and reread it as many times as you want. And once you have done that and you feel like your journal is ready, you can use this second link to submit the journal for evaluation. There's a few more useful links here. Check them for more information if you want to. And that is all from me. Just thank you all for your attention and for your patience. Are there any other questions that we can take?
Yeah, thanks, Miria. So
Thank you.
to the audience, do keep the questions coming. if you have more questions, do take this chance to ask all you want, because this is a session specially organized for UiTM editors only. So this is your chance to ask all the questions to clear any doubts that you have, right? So we will, at the moment on the chat, I do not see any new questions, but if anyone has further questions, do keep them in the chat box, and Miria will be able to address them as we go through the next session.
Yes, keep sending them and I will answer them in the chat.
Alternatively, if some of you want to ask certain questions directly, there's also a private chat available that you can send a private chat to Miria to ask those questions again.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of you have asked for the last slide of that Miria shared. So that would be the references.
Yeah, do you want me to share it again?
You can share that now, and then at the time
we will also share the whole presentation, the slide deck. So
correct, yes.
But let me just, here you go.
Yeah.
You want to screenshot that?
Okay, so this is all the additional useful links.
Yes, there's a few trainings that you can use here. There's a lot of different trainings. Here, the master journal list, there's also some additional information on the JCR. Well, we have everything here.
Yeah, we have a question that came in. So what is the Web of Science rejection rate roughly?
I couldn't give you a number right now. I would say, I think the last number that I was given was that around 30% of the submitted journals go into the Web of Science core collection, or 30% of the evaluated journals actually go into the Web of Science core collection. But take that with a pinch of salt, please, because I'm not sure about that.
Okay. And is there a platform for journals to seek opinion before submitting their application?
No, we only do full evaluations. We don't do any kind of pre-evaluations.
Okay. Then how long is the waiting time for a journal to be evaluated after its submission for evaluation?
Yeah, as I said, right now there is a long pipeline of journals that are waiting for evaluation, that are candidates, and they are pending the evaluation. As I said, it is, well, you have seen it's a lengthy process, and it really depends on the area and on the moment of the submission. So it's really hard to estimate the timings. We do not work in a calendar base anymore. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a certain time. What I can tell you is that right now what we do is prioritize the journal that were submitted a long time ago. So we follow the submission order in order to evaluate journals.
Okay, thank you. Let me just have a final look to see if there's any more questions. Not at the moment. So okay. We'll proceed with the next segment, and then we can address further questions later on.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. Okay. That was a very long and comprehensive presentation from Dr. Miria. So I hope you have found her session useful and you were able to gain more insights into our evaluation process as well as the criteria. So before I start my session, because I know everyone is seated in front of the screen, I just want all of you to maybe do some stretch. Don't worry, I can't see you because none of your videos are on. Okay, so just do a quick stretch to make sure that you are ready for the next road that I'm going to take you on, which is your journal quality improvement path. Okay, so do a quick stretch, stand up, move around, okay, so that you get your attention back again. Okay, and I'm going to share my slides. Okay, I see some participants have raised their hands. If you have any specific questions, just type those questions into the chat box, okay, and we will be able to address that. Okay, Dr. Amiru, you raised your hand, so I think my colleague Clarice as well as Dr. Miria will be able to chat with you to see what we can help you with. Okay, So in my segment today, so a quick introduction of myself. Earlier on, I said I'm the host for today's session, but I'm also a solution consultant for Clarivate. And what I do as a solution consultant is basically to provide more information to researchers on the tools that we have under the Web of Science umbrella. And for today's topic, what I'm going to show you is the kind of tools that you can use to help your journal improve its quality along the way. And these tools that I'm sharing with you will help to address specific parts of the quality criteria that have been highlighted by Dr. Miria early on during her session. Okay? So for the benefit of internet bandwidth, I am going to turn my video off now, okay, so that you can concentrate on what I'm going to share with you. Okay, so journal improvement is a journey, okay? Even if you are currently, even a journal that is already in our Web of Science, they do not stop in the way they improve, both in terms of quality as well as impact. And the continuous improvement that a journey must take is very challenging sometimes, and many factors contribute to this quality and impact improvement. So today, I'm going to share with you some tips and probably strategies that you can use to look at your current journals, see where you are, and then decide what path you want to take your journal on. Okay? So before we begin, I wanted to share some common attributes of a successful journal and what it means. When we look at these journals that are in Q1 to even Q4 in Web of Science, all these high impact journals, these journals have two outstanding attributes. And that is, they have a very substantial network size. And what this network size does is it gives them a very healthy pool of editors that can advise them, editorial board members. This network size that they have is also their potential pool of peer reviewers. It is also their potential pool of content providers, meaning the authors, potential authors. And of course, this is their potential readership size as well. So network size is always very substantial, one of the attributes that's very substantial for a successful journal. And because of this network size, the content quality to be very interesting, very new, very novel, and breakthrough. Okay? But it is not because of one or the other that creates this successful journal. Why do I say that? So let's say, for example, if a journal didn't have quality content, it may not be able to attract the network size. But if the journal does not have the substantial network size, it cannot attract quality content. So I think that is a struggle that many journals struggle with every day, finding quality content and good authors. Okay? So keep this in mind and use this as your objective and the direction that you want to take your journal on. Okay? So I'm going to give you a quick roadmap that you can probably follow. And this roadmap has 3 stages. So looking at each of the criteria that Miria has shared with you, do these 3 steps. Assess using tools that you have currently. Assess your journal based on that criteria. Look at where you stand. Okay? And benchmark yourself against the successful journals out there. Meaning, if you're aiming to be indexed in Web of Science with an impact factor, look at all the journals that have an impact factor in Web of Science. How are they performing in respect to that particular criteria that you are looking at? Right? And once you have that comparison, you're able to identify that gap. So identifying that gap is the second part of this roadmap. And once you have identified that gap, make sure you implement a plan. So knowing but not doing is basically not knowing at all. All right. So know where you are and know what to do is the next step. Formulate that good strategy to take you closer to your objective. So the first part that I'm going to share with you is about assessing your journal's publication output levels and publishing timeliness. And this is specific to this quality criteria, which is timeliness and publication volume. And I cannot stress this enough because for Web of Science criteria, we are very strict when it comes to timeliness and publication volume because we know your potential authors are looking at that as well. Okay? Imagine this, if you have indicated that you are going to publish a quarterly issue, meaning one issue per quarter, and most of your authors will expect that you are going to publish your issue maybe in March, June, August, and December. Okay, they will always look forward to that month to make sure that, yes, did you publish that issue, or did you miss that month and then you published, say, in April. So if you lose that consistency in your publication time, okay, your authors will question, is it really reliable? If I send my manuscript in, are they going to take their own sweet time to look through my manuscript before they reply to me? So this is a reflection of the reliability of your journal, and it's very important, and I cannot stress this enough. Okay, and so how do you identify this gap? Where are you? Look at, think about whether you have had any feedback from any of your potential authors with regards to how quickly they get a response from you, and also how easy is it for them to submit a manuscript to you. Okay, so I've spoken with quite a number of journal editors, and some of them have highlighted some of their issues, and two of them stand out to me. Number one, we lost one whole month's worth of manuscript from excess issues with our current system. Okay, so there are a lot of free software out there that helps you to manage manuscripts, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of reliability. So if your system breaks down, it'll be very difficult to get it back up. And when you lose one whole month of manuscript, imagine that is your potential pipeline, that is your potential authors and content. Okay? So from your standpoint, you lose the content. From the author's standpoint, they will be saying, oh, I'm unable to access the page to submit my manuscript. So this tells me about the quality and standard of the journal. Not very reliable. Okay, so you have to consider this as a whole, both from your perspective as an editor, as well as your authors and your readers. So then what's the plan? Okay, is to implement something that is more stable, something reliable, okay, something that can take all the hassle away from manually managing manually managing your manuscripts that come in, all the errors within the manuscript, for example. Okay, and for Clarivate, we have a solution called Scholar One Manuscripts, and it is an online submission system that is highly used by very well-recognized high-impact journals worldwide. And why are they using Scholar One Manuscript? It's because it's a fully customizable system. So it is customized according to your editorial workflow. Okay? We will work with you to work through that workflow and implement something that is suitable for you. The implementation process takes around 60 days. Okay, and this is how a typical workflow will look like. And every stage of the way is customizable. So imagine this. If you're currently managing your journal manually, do you receive a lot of manuscripts that have maybe inconsistent file formats, for example? So some people will give you PDF, some people will give you Word documents, some people will tell you, give you PNG format for tables, JPEG formats for tables, and so on. And it causes some headache if it's not consistent to how you want to have that manuscript produced. Okay? So what happens? You have to go back and forth. Your administrators for your journals will go back and forth with the author, go through all the checks again, and that takes up precious time. Okay, so on Scholar One, what you can do is put checks in place. QC, quality checks. Make sure that what they are submitting is consistent to what you require. so that it cuts off valuable time in quality checks. And as I mentioned, we have an implementation process. It takes around 60 days. But during this process, you're not left alone. So you will be given a project manager who will be implementing this project together with you according to your journal's requirement. And once that system has been put in place, there will be a training available for all your administrators and editors before it's launched. And that doesn't stop as well. So after that, there will be continuous customer care and support, not just for you, but also for your authors, your contributors. Okay? So if the system breaks down, okay, there will still be a support available to answer any questions. Okay? But as of now, we are still 99% stable. Okay. The next thing that you want to review is the peer review standards of your journal. Okay. And this is addressed in 2 quality criteria within the selection process. Okay. So these are the questions you want to ask yourself. Ask your journal. Okay. Do you have a diverse pool of peer reviewers? Okay. Why is a diverse pool of peer reviewers important? Okay. I know a lot of journals will say, I always send my manuscripts to the same batch of peer reviewers. They're always very friendly, so they do not reject me all the time. So I always send my reviews to them. But at the end of the day, they might be overworked. So when your peer reviewers get overworked, okay, they will find a chance to say no at some point in time. All right. So there's always a need to strike a balance to increase the diversity of your peer review pool so that you will not overburden your existing pool of peer reviewers. Okay. How you identify the gaps. Okay, so there is a tool that you can access. Okay, this tool is free for you to browse. Okay, so you can go to publons.com to see some of these high impact journals. Look at who are their editors, who are their editorial board members, who are their reviewers. Okay, look at who is reviewing for them. What is the quality of the peer reviewers they are getting? And that is the kind of pool you want to try and build for yourself, for your journal. Okay, why is building this pool important? Not just to help you review your manuscripts, but this pool are your potential advisory board members. They are your potential authors. Okay, they are your potential friends for your journal. Okay. And many journal editors tell me yes, I always send my manuscripts to this pool of peer reviewers because it's so hard to find good reviewers nowadays. And even if you do find peer reviewers, it's very difficult to get them to say yes to you. Okay, so we understand that. And the plan that I'm suggesting is a proper peer reviewer engagement plan for your journal. Make sure you keep this potential pool of peer reviewers and authors happy when they are working with you on your journal. Okay? So for peer review engagements, we have Publons reviewer recognition as well as reviewer connect. So peer reviewer recognition is part of recognizing your peer reviewers. So it's not just about saying, sending them a thank you email at the end of the review. So I think many reviewers who are on the call, if you've reviewed for big journals, they will just send you, oh, thank you for reviewing for my journal. That's it, the end. So where's that further recognition? Some peer reviewers want international recognition, even though peer review work currently is not very well recognized. But peer review work is something that they take their time to do outside of what they are supposed to do, which is research and teach. Okay? So this is their contribution to the research community. And that's why on Publons, we make sure that they have a good profile, 360 profile, that highlights not just their publications, but also their review work. And if your journal partners with Publons, we are able to help you have a plugin through your manuscript submission system, have an automated process of recognizing your valuable peer reviewers that way. Okay, so they do not have to manually type in their review on Publons. Okay, you take that work out from them automatically. Once they finish a review with you, they get recognized on Publons. Okay, so that's one way to keep them happy. The other way that we have for peer reviewer engagement is Publons Reviewer Connect. So Publons Reviewer Connect addresses your headache on how do you find more peer reviewers. Okay? So Publons Reviewer Connect actually takes the information of 7 million plus authors on Web of Science, as well as peer reviewers on Publons, current peer reviewers on Publons, to screen them according to your journal's aims and scopes, your manuscript abstract, keywords, authors. Okay? So through this algorithm of searching for a reviewer, you are able to get a suggested list of 30 precise recommendations based on the subject matter. So there are potentially 30 peer reviewers for you to choose from, okay, for Reviewer Connect. And you will be able to look at their profile. So things like whether they have conflict of interest, whether they are available at the moment based on the number of reviews that they have been doing, okay, whether they are available. Okay, so sometimes if you find this person out of the blue on the internet, okay, chances are you have a question mark. Is he available? What's he doing now? Okay, so we take that guesswork out for you by giving you a clear information whether that person is available and an email contact directly. Okay, so from there you will be able to see. So this person did not just do a lot of reviews. This person also had a lot of publications specific to this area of research. So this is the most suitable peer reviewers I can choose from. So this would help you address that issue of I cannot find any more peer reviewers. Okay? So this platform, Reviewer Connect, can be a standalone service, meaning it can be either placed as a plugin in your manuscript management system, or it can be a standalone website that you access every time you need to find a peer reviewer. Okay? Now, the next part is something that is very interesting because it is now about evaluating the impact of your journal. Okay, I think there were many questions earlier on around how many citations is enough, how many articles is enough. So at this part, I'm going to show you how you can benchmark yourself against other successful journals. And the good news is you have access to Web of Science. So UiTM library has a subscription to Web of Science and journal citation reports. And these are the two main tools that you will need when you want to do this comparative citation analysis. Okay? So for today, I'm not able to go in depth into how you can do this step by step, but I can always organize a separate training for our editors who are keen to know more about using these tools. Okay? So the first thing to look at is think about who are you supposed to compare yourself against. So where are you aiming to be? Okay, so think about what is your subject category? So if you know your journal title, which subject category should your journal fit in? Okay, think about that. And then you will be able to identify your competitors, your peers, your successful journal to look up to. And look at the journals that are citing them versus journals that are citing your journal. Right? And then you can compare your citation health against those that are having impact factor. So on Web of Science, this is an example of what you can do to find out who is citing your work. So what you can do is, if, for example, I understand UiTM has one journal in ESCI. So for that journal in ESCI, you can actually search for your publication name. So this is a sample, which is Advances in Natural Sciences, Nanoscience, and Nanotechnology. So search for this publication name on Web of Science and use the Analyze Results function. From there, you will be able to see under source titles and journals that have cited that publication. Okay, so using the citation reports plus Analyze Results function, you will be able to see the journals that are citing yours. Okay. Now, to identify the journals that are in your subject category, okay, I am going to share my desktop for a while to quickly show you journal citation reports quickly. Okay, so this is how journal citation reports look like when you go into Browse by Category. So, and from here, earlier on, Miria mentioned there was a question around multidisciplinary journals. And Miria mentioned that it has to have a focus. So these are examples. So for example, here, this is multidisciplinary, but with a focus on material science. And you can see there's a very big number of journals in this subject category. That's 314. So this is your competitor pool, right? So this is your list of competitive journals if you're in material science. Okay, browsing through, looking down, you see there's another multidisciplinary, but for chemistry. And then you will be able to see the total number of journals in that subject category if you're aiming to have an impact factor. Okay, and all these are the various subject categories. So we're talking about niche journals and niche areas of research. Okay, so there are a total of 236, okay, 236 subject categories, and definitely you'll be able to find one category that your journal could belong to. And with that said, one journal could also belong into multiple subject categories. Okay, so we know that some journals do contribute to multiple categories, so it does not have to be a bullseye for you when it comes to selecting the subject category. Something close enough to what your scope is will be good. Okay, otherwise you can always contact us and then we can discuss further. Okay. So from here, you will then look at the list of journals in the specific category. So let's say your journal is in medicine general and internal. Okay, you want to look at journals in maybe Q1 and Q2 or Q2 and Q3 as your potential comparative journals, your peer journal. So that is your benchmark journal. And on Web of Science, what you can then do, so going into Web of Science, you put in your journal name, journal name, okay, including the comparative journals. So Universal Medicina is a ESCI journal, okay? It's a journal in ESCI. And what I did was selected the Q2 journals in that same subject category that is similar in scope to Universal Medicina. So you have Balkan Medical Journal and Medicina Clinica. So from here, in Web of Science, you can then look at a comparison of volume. So remember, Universal Medicina is a ESCI journal, okay? So for ESCI journals, here, it is producing 153. So if it wants to aim to be a Q2 or an impact factor journal, you're looking at trying to increase its volume to at least 519. Okay, or even 1006. Okay, so that is the kind of comparison that you need to do when you're trying to see where you're going. It's about aiming right, aiming at the correct bullseye instead of just free firing. Okay. The next thing is editorial makeup. This is something that I would always stress with a lot of journal editors because many journals like to fill up their editorial board members list with many advisors, okay, from many different countries, because they say, oh, have diverse editorial board members. Okay, so some of the editorial board members I see will be from Iran, Algeria, Malaysia, Turkey, China, many different international countries. But when you're looking at where your content is actually coming from, it's all concentrated in one country. Do you see the difference? So this is one journal. So this is their editorial board makeup, okay? But their contribution comes from very prominently one country. Okay? So what does this mean? It means that they are not fully leveraging on the diversity of their editorial board. Your editorial board members are supposed to be working with you to push your journal to the forefront. Why do you need international editorial board members? It's because you want their network. You want their international network to be able to get more contributions for your journal. Okay? So make your editorial board members work with you. And how can you do this? One example will be maybe if you have an editorial board member that is very good in a specific field, meaning he's very prominent, has a lot of highly cited papers, okay? Make use of his profile to call for maybe a special issue. Create a special issue. Okay? Do that. So that is just one example. Okay? Of course, getting that special issue done requires calling for papers. And when your network is not very big, okay, you have a challenge of trying to reach out to these potential authors that can contribute to this special issue. Then what can you do? You can look at a marketing campaign. Marketing is all about marketing nowadays, getting the word out. And especially now when you can't be at conferences to promote your journal, okay, all the more you should leverage on online media. Okay? So we have a plan here, which is the Web of Science Author Connect Promotion Service, which helps you to target Web of Science authors. Okay? Not just any author, authors that are publishing in Web of Science. Okay? So what we do is help you address these problems. How do I attract influential authors for my journal? How do I have more readers to cite my paper? And how do I call for papers for special issues that I mentioned before? Okay? If I have a special symposium, how can I broadcast this? Okay? So these are all the problems that we can help you solve when it comes to the marketing service that we provide. So there are many different types of email campaigns that you can do. And what we work with you with is the implementation. So even if you do not have a proper marketing department, okay, you can work with us. What we do is we can suggest content to you, okay, how you want to have a call for paper, okay, and you can tap on this 3 million database, 3 million author database that we have. And you can target this based on countries, based on research area, even based on the journal quartile that they're publishing in. So think of us as the outsourced marketing agency, and we take the guesswork out for you. Okay? So each campaign will have its own information after. So we would give you the click-through rates, the open rates. We will tell you which countries have opened your email more to give you an idea. Okay, so this is a sample of a campaign that we've run for Universal Medicina. Okay, it's part of a 1-year program. They're still ongoing, having that program. But from the first 2 campaigns that they've run, they have already received additional manuscripts from countries that they previously did not receive from. Okay, so this is a sample of their call for paper campaign. And with each campaign, we will show you a comparative analysis of the success rate of each campaign versus the industry standards. We will show you what your audience is clicking on. So from these campaigns, it shows that a lot of people are clicking on, for example, editorial board members. So they are if it's a new journal that they've never heard of, most of the time people will want to know who are your editorial board members. They want to verify the statements that you've made on your website and so on. Okay. And this is one case example that we have, journal. They are also on ESCI, and what they've done was done a 5,000 count campaign with us, and what they saw was an increase in full text downloads by 50%, and the citations went up by about 30% after the campaigns. So I've shared quite a lot of different tools and different ways of assessing and strategies that you can apply. Does it sound too complicated? Okay. If it's too complicated, don't worry, we are here to help you. I can work with you to teach you the tools, specifically Web of Science and JCR, how you can use them. And more importantly, we have ready-made publisher analytics reports that you can tap on. So these are one-time kind of reports that we can run with you to show your journal performance currently, okay, compared against others. And for subject area analysis, this is very useful. It's a kind of report that is very useful for you to find the emerging topics within your aims and scopes of your journal. Okay? And it's very useful when you want to think about what kind of special issue you want to have. Okay? What is hot and what's up and coming. So these are reports that we have. And this is just some screen captures that you can look at of the two reports that I've shared. Okay. But all in all, as a summary, these are the things that we can partner with you on. To improve your timeliness, we want to work with you on using Scholar One manuscripts. To improve reviewer engagements, we are looking at Publon's Reviewer Recognition and Publon's Reviewer Connect. To improve your author pool and manuscripts, we are looking at more marketing services that we can apply with you. Okay? And of course, if you want to strategize further, we have the custom reports and the publisher analytics reports available. Okay, okay, so that's all I have in terms of my sharing. Okay, and now we can have more questions from the floor. Okay, so let me just have a look at the chat. So I have with me my colleague Clarice. I think she's helped to address some of the questions. So Clarice, and Miria, is there any questions that I should be addressing that you have not?
Hey, Julene, I just replied to one regarding the number of articles that is supposed to be published in each issue of a publication. I said that we do not define a specific number of papers per issue, but we do expect to see a certain stability, to not see an issue with a lot of papers and the next issue with very few papers, or also see a steady increase in the publication volume over the years because the journal keeps growing. That's what we could say about that. A special issue, yes, special issues would also be indexed in the Web of Science. I wanted to say something about the subject categories, because you were saying that it is important to define your own subject category. And I completely agree. There's one of the links that I shared in my presentation, that's the Master Journalist Help Center. If you go there, there is a description of each one of the categories. So what kind of research is indexed in each category. So you can use that to find out which is the category that belongs to your journal. If you go to the Help Center in the top menu, Julene, there, you see in the right-hand side in the menu, there's the categories and collection scope notes. Yes, open that. And open the Science Citation Index Expanded, for example. And here you can see the acoustics category, for example, covers resources on the study of the generation, control, transmission, reception, blah, blah, blah. And that is defined for all of the categories that we have. So you can use that resource to find your category or categories. I also said every journal can have up to 6 subject categories, but that is very rare. I think it would be rare to find a journal with more than 3, because that would be considered a multidisciplinary journal, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We do have one multidisciplinary science category. This is, for example, where a journal like Nature lives. But yeah, as I said, the journals there need to have like a focus.
Yeah. So this is the multidisciplinary sciences.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Clarice, was there another question from the audience?
Yes. So there is actually a link that Dr. Yong posted about a particular journal called Environmental Research, Applied Environmental Research. Do you think we can open that link up?
Yeah, sure.
Again, and if you can zoom up a little bit bigger. So as everyone, you can see down here that Applied Environmental Research has the official partner indicated on the website. And that actually means that this journal has subscribed to Publon's recognition service. And what does that mean? It means that this journal will have automatic recognition of a review that comes by their desk. So all the reviewer need to do is at the interface of their online submission system, they will indicate that, yes, we want to be recognized for my review work, and it will be automatically posted on the person's Publon's profile. So that's the difference. So today, you can actually open up a journal dashboard on Publons for free, but there will not be any indication of an official partner, and you will not be able to see rich analytics of the reviewers' makeup, the demographics makeup of your reviewers. So I can actually quickly share, or maybe Julie, can you share how it looks like for a partner journal that has reviewer recognition turned on? Do you have the page?
Hang on, yeah. Let me just find one. Okay. So this is a partnered journal. So Chemical Communications official partner. So what happens is from here, you will be able to see the editors, the reviewers, top reviewers. Is there a question from the audience? Okay, so from the reviewers, you will be able to go in and then you can see number 1. So once this reviewer has reviewed for you, then the information will automatically get fed into this reviewer's information here. Okay, and it will also show here under peer review for that profile, okay, where he has reviewed for. So remember, this particular one is the chemical communications that we were looking at. So it automatically shows up here. And it is a form of advertisement for yourself as a journal if you are partnered. Okay. The other thing that you will get is the partner dashboard. So from here on, you will get a partner dashboard as a journal. Okay. You will be able to see the number of reviewers that you have. Okay, so for me, this is just a sample for myself, but you will be able to see the number of reviewers you have. Okay, what is their uptake? Are they rejecting you? Are they not rejecting you? And so on. Okay, so let's this one. Okay? You'll be able to see who are your top reviewers, okay? And check the history of the peer reviewer to make sure that you're not overly reliant on them for peer review, for example. Okay, so this is the kind of information you will get as a partnered journal of Publons. Okay. Is there any other questions for us? I know it was a very long day.
If I'm not mistaken, have we addressed the special issue on the number of special issues we can have a year?
Question for Miria, right? So,
yes.
Yes.
Okay, this one that says, if journal has already 4 issues in a year, how many more issues can we have? Like special issues, you mean? Really as many as you want. We do not have a problem with journals publishing special issues as long as you follow the schedule that you defined for your own journal. As we were saying, if the journal says it's quarterly, we will expect 1 issue every 3 months. Any additional issues are welcome and are considered just part of the content of the journal.
okay. Okay. Okay, if there's no further questions from the audience, don't worry. Some of you might still have more questions after you start trying to evaluate your own journals and looking through your own journals. Okay, feel free to contact us. So this is our contact email. So you have Dr. Miria's email at the top. Mine is at the bottom, and then Clarice is there. Okay, Clarice's mobile number is also available for WhatsApp. Okay. One final question just came in. Can a special issue be considered as a regular issue for the journal?
Do you mean if you dedicate one of the issues of the journal to a specific topic? I assume that's the idea.
Yeah, so for
yes.
example, 4 issues a year and then one you have. So the second is on special topic.
Yeah, that would be perfectly fine. I would recommend that you make it very clear that it is a topical issue, no? That this is an issue of the journal that is dedicated to a specific topic. So when we are analyzing all the articles and all the publications, we are not shocked by finding a lot of similar or very focused on a narrow topic publications in a single issue. But if you do that, just make it very clear, very transparent that you are doing a topical issue, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. So if there's no further questions, I would first like to sincerely apologize again to the audience as well as Dr. Yong for the disparity in the timings. Okay, but ultimately, I hope that this session was useful for all of the participants. So thank you very much. Dr. Yong, would you like to say a few words to everyone before we go?
Jolene, I have nothing much to say except that please give us time to digest all the enormous information that you've given us.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure I actually have a lot of good feedbacks from the WhatsApp chat room. So thank you for all the good comments that you've given us. Actually, that comes from the attendees. So that shows that our webinar is has achieved the goals that we want to achieve today. So I wish to convey my sincere apology as well, because I think that error also might come from myself. But I would like to thank sincerely to Dr. Miria, Julie, yourself, and also Clarice for making this happen, because it has been a long while that I was planning this. So thank you for making this happen.
Okay, great. Good to hear. Thanks, Dr. Yong. Clarice, anything else to finish up?
For me, well, we have my contact details. If any of your journals, if you would like to, embark on having access to those tools that we have shared earlier, like a really reputable online submission system or Publons to extend your reviewer network, just reach out to my email address or my mobile number. We'll be able to see how we can support your journal's endeavors moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Yong. Thanks, everyone, and stay safe. Thanks, Miria.
Thank you, and thank you to all the participants. I'm very glad that the